What's up, Falcons Nation? It's your boy Jew coming at you with another Atlanta Falcons video. As always, Falcons Nation, rise up. In today's video, I would like to talk about wide receiver Mohamed Sanu. But if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you'll know when I've done Atlanta Falcons content. Hit that like button for your boy. I do appreciate each and every one of you guys. If you would like to donate to my channel, you can donate to my Cash App, which is the $ Jew Talk Sports. And if you'd like to be a part of my Jew Talk Sports membership, you can hit that join tab here on the channel. But with that being said, let's jump right into the video. So as I mentioned in today's video, I do want to talk about wide receiver Mohamed Sanu, and should the Atlanta Falcons sign Mohamed Sanu in free agency. Mohamed Sanu is a former Atlanta Falcon. As you know, he did play with our Atlanta Falcons in 2016. I believe 2017 and also 2018, and then he was traded. But he did play on that Super Bowl team in 2016. And recently, he did an interview with Myles Garrett, who's also a content creator, and I believe he's also a beat writer. And he basically interviewed Mohamed Sanu, and Mohamed Sanu did say that he would like to join this Atlanta Falcons team in 2023. And I kind of just want to give my thoughts on if the Falcons should bring back Mohamed Sanu. Personally, I think it would be a good idea to bring back Mohamed Sanu. Normally, I don't like to bring back players once they're past their prime. I've seen fans ask about players like Julio Jones possibly coming back to the Falcons, guys like Matt Ryan, guys like Deion Jones. And usually I don't like bringing back former players if they're past their prime. But in this instance, I would like to have Mohamed Sanu back on this Atlanta Falcons team. This kind of reminds me of when Sean Weatherspoon, a former linebacker, one of my favorite linebackers of all time for our Atlanta Falcons, he came back and joined our team for that 2016 run to the Super Bowl after he had left in free agency. He had went to play with the Arizona Cardinals for a season, and then he returned back to the Atlanta Falcons as one of the fan favorite players. He was one of those guys that was a leader in the locker room, a great player at one point in his career, but injuries kind of robbed him in Sean Weatherspoon. But when he came back in 2016, he played in the beginning of that season. He was one of the leaders in the locker room, and then he ended up getting injured again. And he didn't play in that Super Bowl, but he was one of those locker room leaders, one of those guys that helped some of those younger players on the defense continue to grow and develop. And I feel like the same thing would happen if we were to bring back a guy like Mohamed Sanu. The reason I wouldn't mind bringing back Mohamed Sanu, even though I feel like he's past his prime, is because he's a player that would fit perfectly in this scheme. If you guys remember when Mohamed Sanu was here with the Atlanta Falcons, he was a guy that was a physical blocker. He was a guy that was great in third down situations, making crucial catches on third downs. And he was the ultimate team player. He was that guy that was kind of like Julio Jones' bodyguard out there on the field. He was a great compliment to Julio Jones, similar to like a Michael Jordan and a Scottie Pippen. And I definitely think that on this team, because Mohamed Sanu is a very humble player, if you go and listen to the interview that he did with Myles Garrett, he talked about not trying to come in and step on any of these young players' toes, like the Drake Londons, like the Kyle Pitts. But he talked about coming in and possibly helping these young players continue to develop. And he doesn't feel at this point that he would be like one of the top wide receivers on this team. He just wants to come in and help these young guys get better. He also talked about coming in because he knows the game. And he talked about sometimes coaches that never played the game don't understand certain situations, especially playing in that slot position, because he was a guy who was great at running routes. And Mohamed Sanu, he understood not only how to play on the outside of the wide receiver position, but he was one of those guys that also played in the slot as well when he was here in Atlanta. And I definitely think that it would be crucial if he were to come to this Atlanta Falcons team. I definitely think that he could help guys like Drake London, who's 6'5", 200 plus pounds, and Mohamed Sanu himself is like 6'2", 6'3", 210 to 215 pounds. So he could teach some of these young guys that we have on this roster that are still developing. He could definitely come in and help these guys, continue to develop and get better. And because Mohamed Sanu at this point, like I said, is one of those guys that was a great locker room guy when he was here in Atlanta, a great complimentary piece. I definitely think that he would be a great compliment to guys like Drake London, guys like Kyle Pitts. I really think he could help some of these younger guys that we have on the roster continue to develop. And I also think if we have injuries, meaning if one of those guys get injured for a couple games, which we know in the game of football, you're going to have guys that, come up with sprained ankles and things of that nature. They may need to miss a game or two. If you have a guy like Mohamed Sanu, he's a plug and play player. Like, he understands the game. He understands like what his role would be here in Atlanta. He knows, like I stated, at this point that he's past his prime, but he's still out there working out. He's still out there running routes, and he still can play the game. I don't think that he's that far removed from his prime that he couldn't come in red zone situations and be a threat, come in on third down situations. And like I said, stated, if someone gets injured, I definitely think that he could be one of those guys that you can plug and play for a couple games, and he could bring a lot to the table. Not only is he a guy that you can bring in certain situations, as far as if someone were to get injured, but also when he was here in Atlanta, he was a guy that you can use on certain packages where he was able to throw the football as well, because he was a former quarterback. And when he was here in Atlanta, we had certain packages like the Wildcat where he would come in and throw the ball down the field as well. So I definitely think there could be some type of special package for a player like Mohamed Sanu that Arthur Smith could add in his arsenal. So I want to get you guys' thoughts on what do you feel about Mohamed Sanu returning to the Atlanta Falcons. I know when he was here in Atlanta, he was one of my favorites on that 2016 team that made that run to the Super Bowl, and one of the fan favorites when he was here in Atlanta. So I definitely think, because he's a very humble guy, because he's a guy that wants to be on this Atlanta Falcons roster, I really think he could add some value to this Atlanta Falcons team, not only on the field, but also off the field, because he understands, he's a veteran. He understands the game. So with that being said, this being your boy Jew, I'll holler at you guys in the next video. As always, Falcons Nation, rise up, be blessed, peace.